Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of A Heart to Serve podcast. My name is Amanda.
And this is Jessica. And we're here to showcase individuals we found in the community that have done amazing things with showing extraordinary acts of leadership and the way that they serve their community.
And today we have Maureen and Jim Hutcherson, and they're going to tell us a little bit about their mission with Baby Steps at UCF. Hey, how are you guys?
Good. How are you doing?
Good. Thank you for coming and being on the episode with us. If you guys just want to share a little bit about yourselves and your story, that'd be great.
Sure. First of all, thank you for having us as well. So my name's Maureen Hutcherson.
I'm Jim Hutcherson.
Yes. And we live here in Orlando with our 4 children, ages 18 to 4. And we're just here today to talk about a new mission and nonprofit that's coming to Orlando, specifically to UCF, called Baby Steps. And the mission of Baby Steps is to empower pregnant and parenting students to have their baby and their education by providing housing, support, and community. And so that's the blanket mission statement. There's obviously a lot more that goes into that we'll get into for sure. But the reason that I'm so personally passionate about it is that I myself experienced an unplanned pregnancy when I was a sophomore at UCF, actually. And just the whole experience was really deeply, of course, impactful and life-altering and ultimately really transformative. And so just knowing what I had to go through, having support, I just really want to stand in the gap now for student moms who are going through the same experience. And even if they have the support, but especially if they don't have the support, be able to lift them up and empower them to be successful in all their roles.
Love that.
Yeah, that's amazing.
What
does that look like? So if somebody comes to you and, they're looking for that support, what does that look like for them?
Sure. So right now, the UCF campus is in the grassroots effort, but Auburn University has actually already done this. So we are expanding from what Auburn already did, and then Baby Steps is going national and hoping to go to as many campuses as possible. So what it looks like when you go to a campus that has an established Baby Steps like Auburn and then eventually UCF, which is what we're really going for, they would be able to contact, the staff and the support system at the university who works for Baby Steps. They can identify what needs do you have, whether it's I need a place to live or I just need help with groceries or childcare. And then they have a full service, a full suite of services that they offer to these student moms. And really what they want to do is integrate them on campus in a way that allows them to continue their education, but also doesn't ask them to compromise those really precious first years of being a mom. And, they can really excel being a student. They can focus on that, but also give the time that they need to their to being pregnant, to having a baby without having to drop out, transfer, or, whatever other choices that they might have to make. So, yeah.
And that's huge because, I'm sure, myself, I was affected by that myself after my first marriage ended and having a 1-year-old and a 2-year-old. Also, fun fact, Amanda and I both also have 4 children. Yes. So we're all at the table. In the 4 children club. That's awesome. But yeah, I had just finished my 2-year associates at an online college, and then I left, and it was just like, I felt so like, there's no way I'm going to be able to do school and be a single parent. So going back to where you started with you said 2004. Mm-hmm. So you had a baby, was baby boy?
Yes. Yeah.
What's his name?
Yeah. So Michael, I can talk a little bit about that. So I, found out that I was pregnant, and it was actually almost to the day 19 years ago, right now. I know, which is really crazy. It really is. It was right. I just remember it was like the end of February, right before spring break, and real big surprise. But but as I think any person who's experienced that, or just any sort of life-altering event that you didn't plan for, it was terrifying. I felt like really ashamed. I was so like fear, shame, and then just mostly isolation. I was really alone in that journey. There weren't any other students that I knew who were going through that, none of my friends. And so it just really, I was so fortunate to have, I know it's so cliche, but to have this village who really rallied around me in the form of family, my parents, and then Michael's paternal grandparents. His dad is also very involved, which is great. Friends, aunts, uncles. There were just so many people who really worked hard to make it easier for both of us. But it was still really challenging. And for the first 4 months of Michael's life, I was actually commuting back and forth. My parents live in South Florida, and then his other grandparents live even further south of them in like near the Miami area. And so they were sharing the childcare duties 3 days a week while I was at UCF going to classes, and then I would scoot home to be with him for the rest of the week. And you know, they both worked full time still, so they were doing that, and I was in school. Those 3 days, I was just really focused on my studies, getting as many classes in as I could, because of course wanted to graduate on time, because the longer that I took, the more of a burden it kind of was for our parents to continue to support us. And it was overwhelming, but worth it. That's all I can say is worth it. And I just know that if I had had a house, like, that was close to campus, a mentor, somebody that I could call, my mom, of course, was wonderful. I can always call my mom, but she lived 2 hours away. So when Michael and I did eventually make it to Orlando full time, which was my senior year of college, I still my friends had to step up and help me, or I wasn't going to be able to go to class and do what I needed to do. So just having that support system is so vital. And I mean, I'm saying all this with the support system. Yeah. Imagine somebody who doesn't have it,
Absolutely.
So
Huge.
Yeah. So I just, it was really just a blessing. I was so fortunate to have all of that. And it really changes your life and your perspective when you have that. And
so it sounds like this has been a passion in you for a long time. So were you looking to do something like this? Did Baby Steps kind of fall? Like how did you find Baby Steps? How did that all come about?
Yeah, that's a great question. So yes, I had felt really called for like 10 years or more to really be for others what my community and my family had been for me. But I didn't know what that would look like. I was just really kind of lost, and Jim knew. We talked about it a lot. And so about a year ago, we decided, it was around my birthday, I was like, for my birthday, I want to incorporate a nonprofit. So he's like, okay. So we did it. And then, but then I was like, now what? So I started to do some research. I probably should have done that first, but we started to do some research, and I came across Baby Steps at Auburn. So I reached out to them, and I just felt like they were the model of exactly the vision that I had myself. Everything they were doing, they're not religious, they're not political, just truly an organization that exists to be uniting in their empowerment of women, and specifically that population.
Very, very steadfast in their mission.
Yes.
They know what they are, what they do, and they do it really well.
Yes, like they have it down to a science, really, and but with love and care and compassion.
Yeah.
So, they're just really good at executing with that love and care. So I reached out to them. And as it would happen, they were looking to expand. And so we started to just talk and dialogue about what would that look like? How would that work? And we're still having a lot of those conversations because it's a growing process, but now we kind of understand our roles, which maybe you want to talk to that a little.
Yeah,
speak to that a little
I certainly can. Because initially she reached out in hey, you did this. Like, tell me a little bit about what you did, because we want to do it. And then that quickly turned into, well, why don't you do it for us and we'll help you. And so what we found is that that's been a really interesting journey, because as anyone who started the business knows, it's really difficult. Expanding that business across multiple markets becomes even more difficult, especially because Auburn is very different than UCF, and UCF is very different than Alabama, which is the other campus that they're looking to expand to right now. And so what we're learning is just how do we define our role, and I can certainly get into that some more as well when we're ready. And what is it that we're trying to do to put sort of that footing? So they call us campus planners for that reason, right? Because we're sort of tilling the soil and getting it ready to actually plant this tree of Baby Steps UCF. But learning has been really difficult, and so we've been working closely with them just to find that right level of what can we give and what's our best use of time.
Right.
Absolutely. I did have one question for you, Jim. So when did you and Maureen meet?
So
And
always
then get married.
Ironically, I always base it off of Michael's age. So he was 5 when we got married, because I didn't ask just her to marry me. I had to ask both of them.
Oh,
Well,
Yeah.
it was such a there was this family that already existed, and then I came in and I was like, I'd like to be part of this family. What's a guy got to do? So, but yeah, it's been 13 years
Since we met, about that.
and that's always been a really big part. I've always really looked up to Maureen for that, because I felt like it was. I mean, I had no children and still didn't finish college. And here she is raising this great young man and also completing her degree. And she gives a lot of credit to those around her, but she herself deserves a lot of that credit as well for kind of staying focused and going, the distance and sacrificing a lot.
absolutely.
And so when she mentioned, hey, I'd like to do this, I was ready to move mountains to make that happen.
Yeah, I was curious what your initial reaction was. So it sounds like you were very excited for her.
Yes, I did.
And-
we spun up that nonprofit right that day. It was-
And now, in addition to marriage partners, you're business partners.
Yes.
Love that. Love
Yeah.
that. So how do you define your roles? And maybe before you do that, what are, before you started Baby Steps, what were you doing, as far as, were you a part of any other businesses? Were you working?
Yeah, so I'm at home full time with my kids. Before I made that decision, before we kind of had too many kids to not make that decision, I was a teacher right after I graduated, when Michael was still very little, very like a toddler, and that's sort of what I did when it was just the two of us, and then I eventually moved in. I transitioned into the government sector. I was working in the courthouse and doing court hearings as a transcriptionist and basically a court reporter, but not like an actual stenographer. So I did a lot of that. And then after Jim and I got married, that's where we met, actually.
I was the IT guy.
He was the IT guy at the courthouse. So.
Lots of excuses to come,
Yeah, my
Fix
computer
our
was never
computer.
really broken. But yeah, that's how we met. And then eventually after we got married and then started to have more children, we made the decision that I was going to stay home with them. And
I eventually left. I run my own business now, so I do have kind of some business acumen, some very little. So I've been able to use that a little bit to actually kind of help us navigate what that looks like. So it's certainly been helpful, because it's not foreign to me in terms of how a business operates and things that are important. So that's been useful.
right.
What do they call it? Synergies between
Yes,
us.
absolutely.
Yeah. And then the Baby Steps National Organization, of course, is they're walking with us every step of the way and supportive, and eventually, as soon as we can get this off the ground, they're going to step in and really start to pull a lot of the weight and make it happen here, and we will always be really big in supportive roles and whatever our roles kind of transition to at that point, but it's just been a really wonderful and I think beautiful journey so far, and it's only been a year, and really, I mean, we haven't even really been able to help anybody yet. That's kind of where we're just so eager. I know I'm so eager to just be in that place already where we have everything we need, and we've raised all the money, and we've established everything, and so right now we're just sort of trying to just make everyone in the UCF and then greater Orlando community aware that we're doing this is happening. There's a place, for them to come along with us on the journey, and whatever your skills or gifts are, we would love for you to be part of it. So that's kind of where we are.
I can explain our role if you want.
Absolutely.
Perfect.
Yeah, so, and it is a transitionary role, right? So what we've come in, and they call it the campus planner, and that's a great name for it, but it is a transitionary role in the sense that we won't always be campus planners. Eventually, it will be planted, right? It'll go from there. But one of the things I think Baby Steps has really done a great job of showing us, and because they've lived through it, is we don't just want to help women right now. We want to help them from now and for onward, right? We always want to be able to do that. So we want this to become a permanent fixture within the UCF campus, and then eventually nationally. And so what we're focusing on now is setting the right foundation for that to become possible. And we have some limitations, right? I still run my own business. We still have 4 children. So there's still a lot of things that are taking our time and attention. And so what we're doing is we know how much we can give, and we're going to give all of that and probably then some. But our first goal is to get the staff in place to drive it to that next layer. So the first 2 people that we need to pull on are a campus director and a development director, right? So we want someone who could basically help us with our fundraising goals and needs, start to get engaged with the operational piece, because there's more that we have to hire afterwards around like resident advisors, lots of volunteering work that we need. So our initial goal is to raise $100,000 to cover the salaries of these 2 individuals who will come on board as full-time employees, fully devoted to Baby Steps. And then we will walk alongside them, continuing this journey. So our goal will then shift at that point, and we'll move out to our larger budget, which we're still working through exactly what that budget looks like, but we're definitely talking 250 to 300 from an annual working budget. That's a big goal to go for. So we need that help to get there. And then once they're on, they'll do things like, they'll set up a board of advisors. There's tons of volunteering. A home becomes, a big part of that. And we're already looking a little bit because, the Central Florida market for housing is quite awful.
Yes, I'm sure you
know.
That's looming in our minds.
Right.
Like, what are we going to do? But the big key to it, too, is that, like, it would be great if we could raise $100,000. That'd be awesome, right? If someone gave it to us today, like, great, we can hire these people. But really, we need foundational income, right? We need revenue that we can count on month in after month. And so we're looking for recurring donations as well. So not only do we have this $100,000 goal, but we also have a goal of having somewhere between 15 to 25 in recurring donations on a monthly basis. That way we can trust, hey, we can afford this, right? We can keep paying you this salary, and we can continue to grow, and we're not going to be constantly worrying about what are we going to do next year when this comes out.
Sure.
That's a big piece of it.
Yeah. So what you guys are doing right now takes, incredible just leadership, motivation. What do you think in your past has set you up for success here? Because you're both clearly leaders individually, and collectively you become like super leaders, right? So and even when you had your first child, you didn't do what most do in your situation, which is just kind of like justify like the it's too hard, right? It's just going to be too hard. I have some support, but is it enough? And your mind kind of talks you out of doing things. And then some people find this like inner drive inside of them to push past those, things that are real, legitimate reasons why someone might not be able to, but something inside of you pushed you past all of that to the point where you could do it. So what does like leadership mean to you individually? Like what in your past do you think helped you get to where you were? Was there anything specific? And how do you define leadership?
Sure, that's a great question. So for me, I grew up in a household who prioritized, my parents prioritized gratitude from the time that I was born. It was always something that they talked about a lot. Stewardship, the use of your time, talent, and treasure. How are you using that? Are you using that to serve others, or are you using it to just serve yourself? And so I was always encouraged through my family life and then my school life and my community to find ways to give of myself and and truly of myself, like not how your sister gives, not how your brother gives, but how would you give, Maureen? Like what would be good for you? And so I think really instilling that, really gave me that sort of just outlook from a long-term perspective. And I really grew up in that environment and just always looking at things through that lens. And so when I was facing this really challenging situation and I had lots of choices in front of me, but my parents, who of course are who they are, wanted one of the very real choices to be, you can do this. You can do this. You're strong enough. We know you specifically are demonstrative and loving and strong and capable and smart and all those things that, which is what we should be telling women anyway. But sometimes we fail to do it. And I think we fail to do it because we think we're helping, but really it's not, it doesn't speak to empowerment. It doesn't speak to like actually what they're truly capable of. So I think that when all that was, sort of given back to me again, like reinforced, and then I had to walk that very difficult road of I'm doing this. It's hard. It's not always easy. I had to make a lot of sacrifices. There were things that my life did not look the same as my friends, when I was a senior in college, and that was okay because I was so happy, and I just loved Michael so much, and I was just loving that first year of being a mom, and even though it was different, and and now I look at him, Michael's 18 now, and he's a senior himself in high school, which is just really kind of poetic in a lot of ways. Like he might end up at UCF, which would be crazy, but but when I look at all of that holistically, and I just think, to me, leadership is actually service. Like that's what it is. It's saying that I can model for others what it means to make my community better by serving my community. And so I don't think that, I don't know that we always think of leaders in that way. I know maybe I don't. Like sometimes I'm like, oh, it's the person who's, up front and speaking the loudest. But sometimes the real leaders are the ones who are doing the dirty work, like, doing the stuff nobody else wants to do.
I literally have goosebumps because, we started this for the exact reason that you're saying, right? Like it's so hard to find what a servant leader is, and you just defined it beautifully, and literally it's the definition of it. So I'm just so glad that you're able to come on and share, even if it's just that, like that was beautiful. Huge, so we really appreciate that.
Absolutely.
I did want to ask if somebody was looking to help or be a part of this mission with you, or maybe they do have a passion and they don't necessarily want to be fully involved, but maybe they want to support. Sure. How can they find you? What can they do? So just share a little bit about that.
Yeah, definitely. You want me to?
Yeah,
yeah, for sure. So we have a website. So we have Baby Steps has a website themselves, right? www.babysteps.org.
It's org, and then I think it's UCF.babysteps.
But if you went just to the Baby Steps, if you wanted to read about the broader mission, which I would encourage everybody to, don't just learn about us. Like we're here, we want you to support UCF. Like if you're in Central Florida, right, you should be supporting UCF if you can, unless you've got a pull to Auburn or Alabama for some reason. But the larger mission's there, and then there's a campus directory where you can find the other campuses, and UCF's there, and then ucf.babysteps.org takes you directly to us. There is a donate link on that site, so obviously we would definitely encourage you to donate whatever you could. And then you can also reach out to us personally. Maureen has a Baby Steps email.
I do.
So it's Maureen.Hutcherson
it's in here.
babysteps.org. I know, I wrote it this morning. So.
Okay, good. That's good. I'm like, I know it's in there.
You want an email. So but we're open. Like we would be more than happy to meet with people if there's an interest. We've already been doing that. Yeah, we've been meeting with a lot of different people in the area who want to help. Right, they have different skill sets. The other day we met someone who's a lactician. Consultant, which was fantastic. Yeah. Like what a cool skill set.
Just looking down the road at things, people can really come in and and that's the thing too. I do want to highlight sort of what Auburn has done, and I know we kind of talked about that already, but to really get into it. I mean, we can here we have their financial report from this past year, their fiscal year in review, and and you can on the website. I do believe they have a lot of this listed, but they have seen, since the beginning of their journey in 2017, they've impacted 96 student moms.
Wow.
They've seen 19 graduate. They've had 10 student moms, and 10, they call them tiny tigers because the Auburn Tigers have actually been able to live in the house that they provide, which Jim and I did get to visit in December. Yeah. And they also have a boutique, a fully stocked boutique, that the student moms can go shopping in at any time with new clothing, supplies.
Amazing.
And it is, because it really speaks to their dignity, I think, rather than just saying, and sometimes there's nothing wrong with that. People need just saying, sure, here you go. But I think that when you're really trying really hard to be independent and carve a path for yourself, it helps to have those ways of feeling some quote unquote normalcy. So I can go shopping any new mom might be able to do, and
especially student moms, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Especially at that point in time, you're just learning how to be independent, and suddenly you're thrust into this place where you feel like maybe you're not independent because you're getting so much help. They do a really great job of normalizing it. Of it's not, you're not pariah, right? It's almost like a a sorority of sorts, right? Where like it'd be no different than if you joined a sorority. It's just the baby step sorority,
right?
And that's really, I think that's really powerful for them.
Yeah,
that dignity piece.
Yeah, just that, and that sense of community, like, is amazing. So,
Yeah.
But there's just so many, and there's so many things: providing meals, groceries, really vetted professional childcare, knowing that your baby's in a safe place when you go to class, and then having
Campus clubs.
their campus clubs. They actually have a campus club for fathers too, which I think is huge. There's just so many ways. And so I know on the website, the Auburn website, UCF is, we're really trying to build it and get to where Auburn is. So to see what we're aiming for, to see what the overall vision is, I think the Auburn website really gives that picture.
All these things would come. Like
Yes.
That's the plan, is everything that Auburn's doing, we want to bring, and then we want to grow from there.
Right.
Because UCF is unique, so we're sure that there will be unique things that we
Right.
need here. It's a larger city. So I'm sure there's going to be
And a bigger
hurdles,
school.
larger schools. So we know there's going to be more, but we
Right.
want to bring all of this. So we want to get that foundation, right? We want to trust that we can provide this now and for a long time. But as soon as we can, these are the things that we're the most excited about bringing on. We're just not jumping yet. We want to
Right.
Yeah.
set
Yeah.
our
We
footing.
want to be able to serve them well. So
Absolutely. That makes so much sense. So a few things you said that just really stood out to me. I mean, you both clearly care so much about what you're doing, your community, young mothers that are in that position. I mean, I feel your hearts in what you're doing, and it literally just makes me want to find out, like, what can I do to help you both? So we'll definitely share as much as we can with others that we know. And also, you're trying to get individual support, companies, sponsorships,
Yes,
people to volunteer. There'll be
Yes.
lots of opportunities to get involved personally and also financially. What you said about gratitude, though, was huge. I think that's really what, like, this all comes back to, right? It's like you've operated in that abundance of gratitude, and that's been like your secret ingredient almost,
Yes.
And do you relate with that, Jim? Do you feel, or is it something else similar?
Similar, I would say,
Yeah.
for sure. I mean, I'm not sucking up, I promise. I've always been the kind of person, I think, that I have a lot of leadership skills naturally. It's just my nature, but I have to be pointed in the right direction. Otherwise, who knows where I'm going to end up. And so I think, just meeting Michael and seeing, being part of their lives and being included in their family and seeing what was done for her, that has really driven me to want to pay this forward. I learned to serve by being a husband and a father. Like, that was where I started to really take that on. Sometimes too much, maybe, right? Where I got to do a little self-care. But, it's really been sort of my MO. Like, everything I've done has been to do something for our family and to help. And I want to pay that I want to go even further with it, right? I don't want it to just be localized to our family. I want it to be everywhere, because I think everyone deserves this. And Maureen was lucky. She did have this, but so many women don't have this at all.
Yeah.
We've heard so many stories since we've gotten engaged with this, with just people whose families have said, we're not going to have anything to do with you, who don't have the help from friends and family who are truly ostracized. And we just don't think anyone should have to deal with that. And we have the means to change that. So for me, that's really the driving factor, is I want to be able to give what I've given my family to as many other families that need it. And I want to give other people an avenue to do the same, right? Because so many of us we are in stable situations. We have jobs, we have a life that's working around us, and we can afford to give a little bit. We always joke about, like, the old Starbucks, like, pay it forward thing, where, like, you buy the coffee behind the person. We want it to be a little bit different, right? We want to buy coffee for someone who really needs it, right? Not someone who's already getting coffee anyway. Yeah. And so this is our way of finding that, right? This is a way for us to find the people who need it, and then to provide them with real things that will really change their lives in meaningful ways, so that in 20, 30 years, maybe they'll be on this table having that same conversation because they got that support, and now they want to pay it forward. And so we're trying to drive that.
I think for me, that's definitely when I think about, like, a year ago, what really spurred me to say, like, we need to do, like, the urgency, right? Like, I need to do something now, was that it occurred to me that Michael was about to enter into his own college journey. Like, he's, preparing to be a senior this year. And I just thought, like, is anything different than when I was there, 19, 20 years ago? And no, it's really not. And I'm not trying to shame or shade the universities for this. Sure. I don't think it's something that they really think about. And so I'm like, well, if they're not thinking about it, somebody should. And the big mission, I think the big purpose of this is to really just change the culture on college campuses, to make it, to normalize it. It happens, statistically, there's some statistics on the website, but it's estimated that anywhere from 12 to 23% of college students do face an unplanned pregnancy at some point. And I've read some studies that actually put that higher, up to almost 50%. So wow. When you consider that, you're like, well, why was I so alone? Why wasn't there anyone else? But they don't feel like they can do it. They don't feel like they have the resources, that real practical help. We don't want to stick the poster on the wall. We want to actually offer them real help, that comes in the form of leadership through service. And so we totally believe that our community, that this amazing community that we're a part of, is capable of it. We know they are. We know the resources, the people, it's out there. We just have to figure out how to channel it. And I know that Baby Steps can do it, and I believe in it wholeheartedly.
That's incredible. You both just are tremendous. I'm so honored just to sit with you both. I literally can see like the vision that you have for this and how much it's going to grow into something that, like you said, is so much needed. It's like, why is no one else doing this? But yet we all can agree it's so much needed, right? It's obvious that it's so needed. So just thank you both. We really appreciate what you're doing, and we definitely want to help in whatever way we can. We'll share the website. I know you said that, just again, as we close, that you're looking for fundraising help, donating and mainly money right now, but eventually maybe other things.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think just, and people, like anybody who's like, well, because everyone's resources are different, and we totally get that.
And
so
the boutique is entirely donations.
Yeah.
Right? So
okay.
The boutique is like new clothes, diapers, like it's all baby stuff, but it's all donated. So that's going to be on our radar soon. Obviously not yet. We don't have a place to put it yet, but,
right.
or a way to give it out. And as much as I'd love a bunch of diapers, I just got
the
out
house
of them,
too, like furnishing the house,
Yep.
that'll all come. But I would say too, any other leaders in the community who are like, I have expertise in real estate, I can lend my skills to that, or I'm really good at fundraising, or even like social media. Like, there are so many aspects to building something like this that I think we've been walking this journey with Baby Steps National and realizing like the true undertaking that it will be has been overwhelming, but we know, okay, we have to like, our first stop has to be reaching into the community and identifying people who connect with us.
We're not building the board of advisors, right? We're leaving that to the director. But one of the things that we've kind of come to the conclusion of is like, we don't want to just be the only campus planners, right? So like, this is not a role that we're protective of, and we're going to keep it for ourselves. So we're looking to expand. So as far as we're concerned, like others who want to be involved, like certainly you can be monetarily involved, you can donate. But if you have time, expertise, you want to help introduce us to new people, run your own fundraisers, like we can help bring other people into the fold and grow our campus planner network, because we are raising a large sum of money, and so the more help we can get, that's a big piece that I think we've just kind of started to open up to and understand, like, why do we have to be the only ones? Like,
right, no.
Basically, we can have a group of campus planners in different areas and specialties.
I was about to say, it sounds like there's a lot of opportunities and ways to be a part of it along with you. So if you'll just share the email address one more time, that way somebody can reach out if they want to.
It's your name.
Okay, it's Maureen.Hutcherson at babysteps.org.
Perfect. And we'll share that too. But again, from both of us, we thank you both for being here, and just we can see, the passion and everything straight from your heart. So it means a lot to us that you would take time and be here with us and to share your mission. So thank you.
Thank you for hosting us. Seriously, thank you. This is great.
Absolutely. We're excited.